Hi you guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel, Inspired by Rachel. So before we get into this story, I need you guys to go like and subscribe, hit the notification bell so you'll be notified every time I post or upload a video. Okay, you guys, I know I be sitting so close to the camera. Like I said before in the last video, I have to feel like I'm having a normal conversation with a normal person, even though I'm talking to a camera right now. I just feel comfortable like this. Okay, so as you guys can tell by the title, I know a lot of you are probably thinking that I was adopted. Nope, I was not adopted. Sometimes I wish I would have been adopted. My childhood was just that bad, but I wasn't adopted. Okay, so you guys, a lot of people want to know why I moved to Boise, Idaho. It's been a long time coming for this story. Only a handful of people know, and the rest of the world don't. So we're going to get right into this story. And like I said, before we start, you guys hit the subscribe button. Please help me out. I only had my channel for about a little less than 3 weeks. I have 64 subscribers. My goal by the end of May is to have 200 subscribers. You set little milestones, This is just what I like to do aside from my full-time job. I love to talk, and I'm like, you know what? I'll just make a YouTube channel and I'll talk to the camera. And you know what? I'll give some of my knowledge to people that maybe don't know about a lot of things. Okay, so first off, question is, one more time, why did I move to Boise, Idaho? All the way from sunny Florida to snowy Boise, Idaho. A lot of you wanted to know. It's been a long time coming for this story. And before I came on, I had to pray and ask God to give me the strength to get through this story, because this is a very emotional story for me. Okay, guys, so in 2003, I was pregnant with my second daughter. And at the time, I was going through a lot. I ended up moving to Tallahassee, Florida with my cousin. He needed me to watch his kids while he was out of town working. And I was like, okay, great. I can do that. At the time when I moved to Tallahassee, my cousin did not know I was pregnant. But his mom knew. She found out some kind of way. So she called him. She was like, hey, Rachel might be pregnant. We need to get with her to see what she's going to do. So my cousin, he came and he was like, Rachel, mom said that you were pregnant. And I was like, yeah, it's true. So he was like, whatever you want to do, I'm behind you. I'm here for you. And so at this time, like I said, I had already had one daughter, and I did not really want to have any more kids at the time. Mind you, my cousin stayed in a 2-bedroom apartment at the time. He had 2 kids. And so I was just like, okay, I need to get my life together. I really can't afford to take care of another baby, even though I didn't have a job at the time. So you know what? Abortion was out of the picture. I was not going to do that. So the thought popped in my head, adoption. So you guys, when that thought popped in my head, I did not have any second guesses, no second thoughts or anything. I was like, this is what I'm going to do. So, I told my cousin, I was like, okay, I'm going to go with adoption. He said, okay, like I said, I'm there for you. So, I got on the phone with the adoption agency. I think I probably about, maybe 6 months, I'm thinking. I don't too much remember. And so whenever you go through an adoption agency, they let you talk to a few families until you think you've chosen the one. So I talked to one family, and I wasn't so sure about them. And so then they put me in contact with another family. And right away, I can tell, in my spirit, it just was like, I'm like, this is the family. This family, they sent me a portfolio of their life. And, they owned a little aquarium store at the time. They sent me pictures of the fish, and they had one daughter at the time and all of that stuff. I thought that was really neat. And so, I just felt in my spirit for some reason, even after talking to 2 families, I was like, this is the family. So, I let the adoption agency know that I was going to go with the second family. They were like, okay. So, as the months went by, I'm 9 months pregnant. I went in labor in the middle of the night at 3 o'clock in the morning. I wake my cousin up, and we call the midwife, and she's like, okay, I will meet you guys there. So we get to the midwife clinic, and you guys, I was in so much pain. Mind you, I have my kids natural. no pain medicine whatsoever. So the midwife gets to the clinic. They get me there. They get me in the room. I'm in pain. And she was like, I was like, hey, can you call Christy, which is my adoptive mom? She's like, okay. So she got Christy on the phone. This was 3 o'clock in the morning. So I'm pretty sure they was listening out for that call because they knew this was around the time that I was supposed to give birth. So, we got Christy on the phone. They was able to listen to me have my baby and all of that. So, so I had the baby. They listened. Yeah, they was on the next flight. Christy was on the next flight out from Boise, Idaho to Tallahassee. And so she ended up getting to Tallahassee later on that evening, I think. And when you're a mom and when you have a baby, you have that automatic bond to your baby. So I already knew in my head that I wanted to do the adoption. So I was like, okay. I asked the midwife, I was like, can you, I didn't want to have her at a hospital because, I didn't want to stay in the hospital for 3 days and go through all of that. I didn't want to do that. So I had my baby at a midwife clinic. So I asked my midwife, I was like, do you mind if the baby stays here until her adoptive mom gets here? And she was really nice. She said, yeah, sure, we can do that, because I didn't want to take the baby home. And, I already knew I had agreed to this adoption, and this was the best thing for me to do, I didn't want to take her home and start having and second guessing myself. So you know what? I left her there with the midwife until Christy got in town later on that day, or it was the next day or something. I think it was later on that day. We ended up going to Utah. We did the adoption. And during this process, they ask you questions. And I remember them asking me if I wanted to do an open or a closed adoption. So my thought process was, you're doing the adoption. It's kind of, that's a personal thing. It's kind of up to you guys. So she was like, you know what, we'll leave it open, and and I was like, okay, cool. So we did all that, did the paperwork. The next day we ended up flying to Boise, Idaho, and we went to go meet their family in the airport, because I didn't know that their family was going to be at the airport. They had balloons and all that stuff. It was really nice. They had balloons because they were adopting a baby. So you know what? Their family wanted to be at the airport when we got there. It was a lot of them. They had balloons and all that stuff. And everybody welcomed me with open arms. They was so nice. It was a good experience. It really was. So So like I said, now I'm in Boise, Idaho. So they asked me if I wanted to stay at their house or if I wanted to stay in a hotel. I really didn't know anybody, so I was like, okay. And I had my 1-year-old daughter with me too. And I'm like, okay, I'll stay in a hotel, And so I ended up staying in a hotel that night. And I'll never forget her, I think it was her husband's, Ammon's mom, stopped by the hotel to meet me. It was a few of them stopped by the hotel to meet me. They brought me money and gifts, and that was really, really nice. And so the next day I ended up catching a flight back to Tallahassee, Florida. So when I got back to Tallahassee, Florida, I think I stayed in Tallahassee for 4 months or so, and I ended up moving back to Pensacola, Florida. So during this time, when all of this stuff was happening, I moved back to Pensacola. I had 2 more kids. I gave birth to 2 more kids, 2 more daughters. And as time went on, I lived with my kids' dad's mom for a little bit. And then that wasn't working out. So I just left and I went to go stay in a hotel. So during that time in the hotel, I was just like, you know what? I can't do this anymore. Because mind you, I had been homeless in the car with my 3 kids. It was a rough road for me. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to call Christy and them. Because during this time, I think I was kind of staying in contact with them. They were sending me pictures and all of that stuff, And so I called them because I had their number. And I was like, I have to get out of here. I'm staying in a hotel. I want to leave. So they agreed. They was like, do you want to come to Idaho? And I was like, yeah, sure. So I told my kids that. I was like, dude, I got to get out of here. We are in a hotel. I can't do this anymore. So for a while there, he wouldn't let me go. So then when he finally agreed, I called them back, and they right away got me and my 3 daughters a bus ticket to come to Boise, Idaho. And, during this time, they owned a little aquarium shop. So they didn't have a lot of money during this time to fly all of us out here. So, you know, I was fine with the bus ticket because I had to get out of there. I wanted to change. And also too, I felt so empty, you know, being that I had went through the adoption process, and this was years later because I had two kids, and I just felt like it was an empty hole in my heart, like I was missing a part of me. So, you know, I ended up getting on the Greyhound. Took me 3.5, 4 days to get here with three small kids, a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and I think a 2-year-old at the time. You know, so we finally got here. We stayed in their house. We stayed in my daughter's adoptive parents' house for a month. And you know, when I got here, it's like they welcomed me with open arms in their house. You know, I drove their cars. They trusted me in their house. They barely knew me. They only knew me from, you know, this is the person that we adopted. We adopted her baby. That's the only thing we had in common, you know. That was the only thing we had in common. You know, like I said, they welcomed me with open arms. It was amazing. And another thing, it was great for my kids to be able to bond with their sister and play with their sister. And when I tell you guys, like, I didn't know how it was going to be. I didn't know how it was going to be being in the same house with my daughter that I gave up for adoption, but it was really nice. You know, I was able, you know, I watched things. They treated her just like she was one of their kids, you know, everything. I mean, it wasn't even awkward for me. It was nice, you know. So I stayed with them for a month. I got a job. And I got my own place. They bought me my first car. But I got to go back. A lot of you guys don't know this. I always tell them. So coming up with a name for my baby, they was like, okay, do you want to name her? And I was like, well, you know, if you guys are taking her, I think that should be your job. So I think right off the bat, she was like, okay, we're going to name her Rachel. And so she has my name. Her name is Rachel. It is spelt the exact same way, you know. So she has my name. When I moved here to Idaho, you know, my whole life changed. When I tell you guys, like, this is one of those stories where you have to stop and think and be like, no, stuff like this don't happen in real life. When I tell you, these people have helped me with so much stuff in my life. If I sat here and tell you guys everything that they have done for me, you guys would think I was lying, you know. You guys would think I was lying. And, you know, some people, I've even had someone say, you know what? The reason why they are helping you so much is because they think you're going to take your daughter back. I'm like, no. Once you go through the adoption process and you do the adoption, you can't just go and be like, oh, I changed my mind. I want to do this over. No, it doesn't work like that. They took it upon themselves out of the goodness of their hearts to help me, you know, to help me with anything I needed. I mean, anything that I called and asked them for, they were right there. And you know what, excuse me, I'm not the type of person to just be like, okay, you know what, I know they have it, so I'm going to call and ask them for it. No, I don't call and ask unless I really need it and it's my last option, you know. And I remember one time my kid's dad told me, he was like, Rachel, you are the most blessed woman I know. And I'm like, you know what? When you have a heart like mine, when you give and you give, and you will help anybody, I think God placed certain people in your life to help you, you know. So they have been a huge blessing to me throughout this whole process. You know, I can get on the phone and call them and say, I need this. You know what? They're always there for me. You know, I'll never forget, I had to go out of town with them to Key West, and we were eating dinner at the table with one of their friends, you know. The guy they wanted to know a little bit about my adoption story, and I started to tell them. And I remember saying, you know, I really don't know why they chose to continue helping me after the adoption process. And I remember Ammon, which is her husband, my adoptive daughter's dad, he said, you know what, because God told us to. And, you know, that was a pivotal moment for me. And I remember I was just bawling. I was crying, and Ammon was crying, which is Christy's husband, you know. Like I said, they took me in as one of their own. And by them loving my daughter as their own, they loved me and they accepted me and my kids. Because if it wasn't for God using them to help me, I don't know where I would be right now. I don't know where I would be. I sure don't. So it's been an amazing journey. My daughter is actually 18 today, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do this story on her birthday. It was so nice to see, like I said, my kids and my daughter play together and get to know each other. It's not one of those adoption stories to where, you know, the person that's adopted have to grow up and wonder who is their biological mom, or wonder if they have sisters and all of that stuff. My daughter knows who her Tommy mommy is, and she knows who her sisters are. So that's really a great part of the whole story too, you know. And you know, a lot of people, I got a lot of havoc. A lot of people was like, well, Rachel, you know what? Why did you choose a white family? And I was like, you know what? I didn't choose a white family. You know what? God chose a white family. You know, from the time that I started the adoption process, even before the adoption process, God already knew where my life was going. God already knew that I was going to need help one day. He already knew that I was going to be living in Boise, Idaho one day. So that's why I tell people, you know what? Everything happens for a reason. I moved to Idaho in 2008, I think, and I have not looked back. I went home to visit, but you know, for now, this is my home to stay. You know, I like it here. My family's here, well, my kids and all that. You know, I like it here. I don't plan on going back to Florida, you know, because like I said, before I moved to Idaho, my life was in shambles. And the people that adopted my daughter was the ones that reached out to help me, and they have changed my life. You know, they've changed my life for the better. And like I always say, I thank God for working through them to help me get to where I need to be in life, because you don't find people like this all the time. You really don't. You don't find people like this. And I just want to thank God for them, you know. So this is, you know, it's been a long time coming. This is one of those stories to where, you know, you have to tell. And when a lot of people ask me why I moved to Idaho, I don't want to go through the long process of telling them, well, this is what happened and this. I just say, you know, I needed a change. I needed a change. So you guys, you know, now the reason I moved to Idaho, you know, I have a daughter. She's 18 today. Her name is Rachel. She have my name. They named her after me. That was a plus. And I just thank God that he used them for it to be an open adoption. And like I said, she knows who her Tommy mommy is. She knows who her sisters and brothers are. And it's just amazing. And I am truly blessed to have them in my life. I am so blessed, you know. Yeah, so it's been a long time coming. I've been wanting to tell this story for a long time. Like I said, it's one of those stories to where you just cannot be like, well, you cannot tell. You have to tell certain stories. You have to put certain stories out there, because Christy and Ammon, they're not the type of people that's going to help me and be like, oh, you know what? This is what we did for her. We did this. They don't do that. They help me out of the goodness of their heart, and they leave it like that. They don't brag about it or anything. And I thank God for them, you know. I thank God for them. Yeah, so you guys, that was my story, you know. If you have any more questions, guess what? Just put it down in the comments, and I will gladly answer the questions for you. And if you felt like I left anything out on the story, leave it in the comments and I'll answer them for you. So I think that was mainly it for my adoption story. So in all, I have 6 kids. I have 4 girls and 2 boys. 4 girls, 2 boys. Can't have any more, won't have any more. I'm done having kids. And like I said, I just thank God for putting Christy and Ammon in my life. You know, Christy and Ammon, you know, I know you guys are going to see this video. You know what? I thank God for you guys, you know, because it's not every day where you find people that have hearts like you guys do, especially in adoption stories. Some people, when the adoption is over, they don't have anything to do with the birth mom, you know. So okay, so that is all for this video. So you guys, like I said in the beginning, like and share this video, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you'll be notified every time I upload a video. Yep, make sure you subscribe. Right now, I think I'm at 64 subscribers, and I've had my channel for approximately 3 weeks. So my goal is, I'm going to think big. My goal in 2 months is to at least be at 800 subscribers, you know. I can think bigger, but right now I'm just going to leave it at 800. So you guys hit the subscribe button, the notification bell, so you'll be notified every time I upload a video. And guess what? When you subscribe to my channel, that will make you one of my inspirationals. And when you become one of my inspirationals, that will inspire me to make more content for you guys. Okay, so you guys have a blessed day. And like I always say, I love you and there's nothing you can do about it. Push the subscribe button. Okay, good night, you guys.